All right, Laura Patac, thank you for joining us on the Personal Success Podcast.
Hello, Ryan. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. I just want to start off for our audience here, and just in your own words, who is Laura and what is her story?
Well, Laura, Romanian, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur less than a year ago, former mathematician turned poetry writer. And in the last 12 months, since I pursue my entrepreneurship journey, I moved to Dubai, where I currently reside. And what I can say is that I have the privilege to really do what I love to do best. And this is writing and interacting with people like you and with your audience, trying to bring some impact into the world.
Well, I love that we overlap there, because as I was sharing with you before we started recording, I just in general feel such a sense of honor to be able to have this conversation with you as well. So that feeling is mutual. So Laura, you discuss the power of storytelling in your books, Stories with Purpose. It emphasizes them in both your personal and your professional journey. I wonder what story captured your heart early on that really informed you of this power of story.
Well, I would say that the first realization is the most powerful one, because you go back to that. And the story goes like this. When I'm an introvert, which become an ambivert. But to get out from the introversion, when I was very young, teenage, 16 years old, I was very scared and fearful to express my emotions and to really share what's happening every day. So therefore, I was journaling. It was the time when they even didn't know what journaling is, and we didn't talk that much about journaling. And I was journaling without knowing, and I was still very shy to really share those experiences with my mom, with my friends. So what I did, I applied an encryption and I applied a metaphor on that. Those poems, those initial poems, when my mom read them, it was, I think, the first time when we connected really profoundly emotionally. And from that moment on, I had her full support to really guide me and to polish this gift I was having in wrapping up journaling into metaphor and delivering those kind of very emotionally full poems. So in that moment, I realized that this is a power which it has the roots in creativity and this kind of, and if someone is asking me how I do it, I don't know how to explain it. But it's my own gig, which helps me take a very, very beautiful story, turn it into poetry, and connect maybe emotionally much more intense with the audience. So I put on hold this kind of super gift of encryption for the corporate ears. But in the corporate ears, storytelling become very obvious, the form of expression in boardrooms, in meetings, in giving feedback. The other realization I had, because being a Romanian and English is not my first language, when I joined corporation for the first time, I was not that good in speaking English. So therefore, I was obviously not speaking up, being afraid that I'm going to be judged, what people will say about my poor grammar English language. But nevertheless, I realized that the way how you say it, grammarly or not, it's less important. The impact of your story and the content is what matters. And the way how you connect to that story with your audience, either your boss, either your friends. So therefore, I realized that storytelling or story-driven leadership, I'm going to call it like this, story-driven leadership, it's a very powerful tool if you are aware about how to embed your experiences into a story which is concise and drives an impact. Mm-hmm. So I'm pausing here because I said multiple things in a very short period of time.
No, I think that's wonderful, because it sounds like it wasn't so much a particular story, but really you recognized the power of story early on, and just this conversation that you had with your mother early on, where you connected so deeply using the power of words. And later on in your corporate career, it seems like there's a through line to that. Be like, oh wow, this exists at this level too. It's not just mother and daughter. It can, it is sort of the corporate culture and the company to the world, perhaps even. So I want to talk about your first book, and that was most notably in that the subtitle. And the book was called Stories with Purpose.
Yeah, there is a story behind that second line. I was going back and forth to add another line, and some of my friends they were like saying, "No, you really must do that because this is so you." And this is the way how actually you think everything in life, and people should realize how their own story it's very well rooted into their purpose. And the reason why I'm saying this is that if you are thinking your whole life, you have a set of realizations. You can call them either success or struggle. But those are those kind of handful of moments which they've been so crucial that they defined who you become and where you landed in this present moment. So when you are thinking about those stories, they become the foundation for your life and for what you're gonna be doing in the future. Now, if you think about each and every of those and you ask yourself the question, is that story linked with your purpose? 99% of the cases, because they were so fundamental, they are. I was very fortunate to be able to discover my purpose in my early. It was an exercise. I was fascinated by it. I understand that my purpose is in the legacy and the impact I bring to individuals, but also to people with whom I interact. So I discovered that my purpose is rooted in legacy and the impact I bring around me. Therefore, I realized that each and every of my 5 top realizations in life, when I asked that question, yes, they were rooted to my purpose.
Wow, that is beautiful. Just because I mean that's a great answer to the question. I didn't see us going there, but there is kind of the story that you're telling yourself about your life, and whatever that looks like is has threads of your purpose that kind of run as again a through line through it, and that's just a beautiful way to consider it, I believe. And I hear that just before we were rolling here, you were talking about this idea of success being sort of the way I heard it, and correct me if I'm wrong, was success is kind of like the stage gate. Like you get there and you go through it, and then there's just beyond that, there was impact. So tell me about your kind of thoughts about how you think about success and impact and what sort of order that comes in and how it's connected.
I will use a very simple example. A year ago, I I didn't know that I will publish a book, but I set myself an objective to do it. And I learned tons because between, getting the manuscript to really be up on Amazon, there is a very intense journey. And I didn't know how to do it, so therefore I asked for help. And I really want to emphasize on asking for help during your journey because help is not given, you have to ask for it. So let's think success versus impact. That what I was considering success, I was considering success the end result, the fact that the book was up on all digital platforms and it was with a cover and the content which made me be proud of it. Now, impact is happening in the moment when someone is going to buy the book, because when what the book has to offer, the book has to offer a path for people to be able to write their own meaningful story and to understand what brought them where they are right now. The book contains 28 poems with the stories behind and 56 mind-bending questions, which is asking the reader to go into a wide space of reflection, enabling him to really get some conclusions and to really write their own story. So if you are thinking about success versus impact, success is an accomplishment. It's a target which you try to achieve. The impact starts when the success is achieved. Because the question which you need to answer is how what I just did, what I just accomplished is going to impact, is going to really have some benefits to the world around me.
Beautifully said. You have a very poetic way of putting these things. I've discovered this paradox. I'm a coach and I work with with clients, and we talk about the paradox of goals, right? Where we have this idea of what success is. Let's say somebody's goal is to be a millionaire. The actual power is of that goal is you have to become a person that's almost like saying the impact is more important than the goal. It sounds like we're saying something similar there.
I support what you are saying. When people are saying, my goal is to become a millionaire, it's like, comma, because being a millionaire is going to help me to do A, B, and C, and
Yeah.
that is going to become the impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
It's it's like running through to the next step, because you cannot have impact without success, right?
yeah. Yeah.
You cannot do so many good things if you don't have the millions behind, if your objective is to become a millionaire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a dependency and complementarity in what we are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So when you think about your sort of transition from, this corporate career to becoming an entrepreneur, what led you there? What was that transition like for you to go through?
What led me there was my purpose. Simple,
Yeah.
simple answer. I'll say it. I'll say it like this. In corporate life, it was one moment when I realized that no, I thought that I reached a ceiling. I knew exactly what my strengths are, my talents are, but they were just like used in the same environment. Also, I was in the same industry, financial services, for many years. And when you are in the same industry, you mingle with the same known things. The usage of your talents starts to depreciate, and you feel like you can do more and you don't know how to do it. There are so many people having an exit from corporate and going to entrepreneurship, and I truly encourage them to face that with courage if they make that decision. But my journey led me through discovering some blind spots and fears, which I didn't know I have. Because in the corporate world, you are very protected. If you go to LinkedIn and you look to the profile, if you are not HR and you are doing anything else than HR people tend to have like many connections. But if you are a corporate employee, your LinkedIn profile is going to be very nicely made, but you are just going to consume, not contribute to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I was in that position. I was consuming, not contributing. I had less than 500 connections, and I never posted on LinkedIn in my life, and I was scared to death to do that.
Yeah.
So that was the fear of exposure, driven also by the comfort zone I was in. The other thing and when you enter entrepreneurship, it's all about social media. You really need to build a brand. You really need to build a presence.
Yeah.
You really have to show up with intent and contribute. The second thing, it was about, and this is funny, now it makes me laugh, but I was like terrified about it. It was, who is going to listen to what I have to say? And even when I was having this objective to publish stories with purpose, your story has purpose too. I was asking my publisher, do you think that, the content is well thought? Is there anything missing? That cover, which you see, and might not be the best, but I was sitting to really, conceive that cover for 3 weeks because I wanted things to be perfect. Because in corporate, I was having this kind of perfectionism. The third thing I learned in entrepreneurship, and I had to learn it very fast, is that perfection is going against progress. So think that in less than 12 months, I was in the position to overcome the fear of exposure, to really start being confident in the message I'm bringing into the world, and to start doing things which is not that they are not well made. They serve the purpose for which I'm trying to set things in motion. So it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to meet the purpose. So the trajectory from corporate to entrepreneurship went through this kind of emotional roller coaster. And I was very fortunate. And as you said at the beginning, and when we were talking, I'm very grateful that I've met a couple of very good mentors. And I've started to engage with some very well-rounded communities when it comes to mindset. I joined Mastermind and Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. I learned fast track the blueprint of becoming an entrepreneur. There is a lot of information out there about entrepreneurship, but you really need a blueprint with the stages, with the milestones, how to do it. After that, I decided to move to Dubai, and in Dubai, I joined a very good community, Strategic Business Connect. I think it's one of the best business communities in town, as I'm saying, where I started to engage and connect through my story, through the benefits I'm bringing into the world. I started to polish my sales value proposition. I started to have engagements, and it all everything get back to one belief I have, that irrespective if you are corporate or you are entrepreneur, you really need to have a support model. And that support model, it's about your family of choice, your friends, your family. It's family and family of choice. It's all
Yeah.
together. It's about the second one. It's about people who are in the same business with you and with which you can collaborate. Someone who can coach you, because a coach needs a coach. I'm always saying that, you know.
Absolutely. I agree.
And the third one, the third, it's about the network you are in. So family, coaching, community, mindset alike, and the network. The network where you go networking with intent, you just don't show up. You contribute. That is the playground where actually you can connect, you can build your business, and you can get recommendations later on for different speaking engagements, different conferences, things which can really help you to position yourself.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, if it's all right with you, I want to zoom in on. And the first
Please
one
go ahead.
is to rewind to the back or the beginning of what you said. You talked about this feeling of knowing that you could do more, but not knowing what that was. And Laura, I can't help but the reason why I want to highlight this is because I think so many of us have come to that point and we're scared to take a step in a direction, but you did. And I just wonder, why was that? What enabled you? What empowered you to be like, I know there's more. And I wonder what comes to mind when I ask that.
You zoomed in amazingly, because the question which I asked myself in that very moment, it was, what do I know about me? So you hit a ceiling, you struggle, you are stuck, all the S words, you know. So I asked myself, what do I know about me? Because what I realized that I went back to my unique story. I went through the 5 moments which drove me where I am right now. I realized the struggles, the challenges, how I tackled them, what kind of emotional wins I had, how I felt after I was on the other side. And I realized that I have a set of strengths which helped me overcome those moments. That's number one. And the number two, I reminded myself how powerful, unique strengths I have. And I can give you my top 5 because I'm so proud of it. So my first one, I'm a learner. I always learn by doing things, and that's the way how my learning ability has been developed. I'm an arranger, which means that I juggle with multiple things in the same time, but I get things done because I'm responsible as well. I'm a restorative because I'm a problem solver. I love complex situations and to get clarity out of chaos. And the fifth one, I'm a strategist. I have this ability to zoom in and to zoom out. So in the moment when I reconnected with my own story, reconnected with my strengths, I said, what can I do having all this? And immediately the creativity surfaced, the fact that I shelved the poetry writing for many years and I restarted a couple of years back. immediately the courage to experience something new and to juggle with multiple things in the same time. My strategic muscle got in, and I said, okay, so how you gonna do it? How you gonna move from point A to point B? So to me, when you are in the position to make a decision, make a step, two questions. What do I know about me? Because you're gonna realize that you have all what you need to make that jump. And the second question, which I asked at the end after I strategized and I put everything on paper, if I do this, how this connects with my purpose?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. I want to I want to take a risk here and ask something just a little bit deeper. I'm sort of voicing some of the coaching conversations I've had today. So I think that, I know some of those folks listen, and I wonder, we talk a lot about self-trust, and it seemed like there was something that was, you had this sort of unbreakable trust in yourself. And I know that one of the ways where I've been able to enhance that with myself is through writing. And it seems like I don't know. I'm curious. Number one, what caused you to have this degree of self-trust, and was this writing connected to it?
This is connected with success. And I'll answer very simple. The self-trust comes from accomplishing almost everything I put my mind at in my life. And I'll give you a very real life example. And I do hope that some of the connections and the friends I'm having, they're going to listen to your podcast and they'll become your listeners because they know this story. So when I enter corporations, and imagine that I was like a Romanian coming from the middle class, no fancy studies somewhere abroad because that was the time. And 5 years into corporate world, I realized that I have this kind of aspiration. And I said like this, I said, by the time I'm going to become 40, I'll be a vice president. I said it exactly like this. By 40, I'm going to be a vice president, and I'm going to just, enjoy having a global responsibility. By 50, I'm going to get retired and I'm going to do what I love to do best, meaning writing, poetry, and everything. I'm going to say it like this. Be careful what you put into the world. Because every action I took between 32 and 40, and I think that I became vice president when I was 42, a lag of 2 years. And I retired. I became entrepreneur when I was 53, 54. It's a plus minus, take it with a pinch of salt. But the most important thing is that you accomplish that, because these aspirations are as the North Star, are very important. And when your whole life you are driving towards your aspiration and you have challenges, success, setbacks, you learn, you fail, you rise again, but you achieve it, you are there, of course, you gain that kind of self-confidence, self-trust. So to me, there is this kind of triangle, which I really love in life, which is driven by your purpose, your aspiration, and what's happened in between. It's your unique story.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. I love that. And it's funny because I'm sort of realizing that I had a similar thing that I did when I was younger. I was like, I'm going to have this position by this age. And I actually got there a little bit early. And then I didn't use it to build self-trust. It actually hurt my self-trust because I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Why did I do this? And I think that really it was just for me a way of looking at it. I could have been like, because I kind of said, okay, this is it. This is the end for a couple of years there, honestly. And I think that I didn't have that sort of next goal. So I'm just realizing as I'm listening to you talk, Laura, that there's a little bit of just perception and clear thinking that really plays into this too. One of the things that really shows up is that you get to a point of clarity with everything, and and that really shows up in what you say. The other thing I wanted to zoom into, there's actually one for each one of your points that you sort of made, was this idea of asking for help. Like, I didn't know which step to take. And you said, I'm going to try to quote you, but I don't know if this will be accurate. You said, help doesn't come to you. You have to ask for it. What gave you that wisdom?
Well, that wisdom comes, I think, from life experience. I even wrote a poem, which is in my book. And whomever is going to get the book, the poem is called The Prince in the Living Room. I don't know the page, but this is the poem. And that poem is saying very simple that if you are waiting for a chevalier in a shining armor to come and rescue you, you are waiting for nothing. Like, you have to rescue yourself. And this is what, this comes maybe because of my upbringing. So my upbringing, Romania, I was born and raised in a communism country, which suddenly moved to capitalism in the early 90s. And it was a very different upbringing, which literally strengthened my resilience, the way how I'm the lenses through which I was like seeing the world at that moment, which enhances when we did the switch. But what I'm trying to say that when it comes to asking for help, that's also a moment of vulnerability, because you are somehow saying, and people are thinking, oh, she's asking for help because she doesn't know what to do it. Yes, I don't know anything. I don't know how to do many things, right? So therefore, the simple example is that when I was struggling to understand how I can get a paper manuscript of 200 pages into a book on a marketplace, I was in the Strategic Business Connect. It was a Zoom call, 20 people, and someone and feel bad for. Actually, I'm gonna say that I feel bad for the owner of the group. Asked, is there anyone who needs to ask for some help? And I raised my hand and I said, I need help to understand the process and to get some tips how to publish a book. The following happened. I got 3 names which were like guiding me to understand the process. I choose one, and from that one name, I ended up with having to choose 3 publishers. And that was in a span of 2 weeks. So to me, asking for help, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of self-trust, and it's a sign that you love yourself because you want to learn something new, and to also you really want to evolve, right? And if you are not asking that question, nobody is going to knock at your door. Because if I was sitting on the problem, how to publish a book, nobody was coming to come at my door saying, I heard that you might have this struggle. Let me help
Right.
you. You really need to raise your hand, right? So it's same in corporation. In corporate environment, I struggle with this kind of asking for help at the beginning. But after that, asking for help in a group or in a team, actually it's strengthening the trust within that team. Because people appreciate the fact that you are asking for a perspective, you are asking for an opinion. You are very, I would say, open and honest on the fact that you don't know how to do some stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story because, there's a way of hearing that story where if you wouldn't have said, you raised your hand and said, I need help here, you might not have come to those publishers and you might still be wondering about that question there. I think there's some serious power in that for anyone listening right now. The other curiosity that I had or thing I wanted to ask you to expand on is you said you found this power of community. So this seems like you talked about, I think I heard 4 or 5 different groups that you belong to now of
Yes.
like-minded individuals, of people who are available to ask for help. So you really discovered something about the power of community in this journey.
Well, I learned about the power of the 3 C's. And let me see if I get it right.
Yeah, sure.
So the power of three C's, it's one, as I said, every coach and every leader for that matter, or anyone who wants to evolve and to move from point A to point B in life, career, they need a mentor or a coach. You cannot evolve in vacuum. Evolution is happening when you are surrounded by people. And you have someone like a role model or a coach to look up, or maybe some people from which you can get a different perspective. So I'm going to be saying the first C is like coach. The second one, it's about community. Being in a like-minded community, and in corporate life, you somehow assimilate the community with your peers, with your working place, but the community has to be outside of the place where you work. It could be related to the passion you have, to the hobbies, to the volunteering work you are doing. So being in a community which helps you evolve outside of your working place, that helps you accelerate and bring much stronger creativity. It doubles down on the curiosity. You learn new things. And plus, you are able to be you in an environment which is not in the space of the working rules. Third C, it's about consistency. And I've seen so many individuals coming and saying, I need a coach. I really need to I need to connect more. I need to do this. I need to do that. That's fantastic. The desire is always going to be there. But the magic is happening when you understand not only that there is a desire, but you understand the need to conceive a plan and to do some simple steps every day in order to move from point A to point B. So these three C's, having a coach, belonging to a community which enables you to be you outside of your working hours, and having a consistent plan for evolution, these are the three elements which I believe are important for every individual. And that's why I value the networking groups I am in, because I go in, it's a give and receive, by the way. And I really want to make this kind of comment now. It just crossed my mind, is that when people are thinking about networking, people are saying, oh, I'm going to just meet some people, exchange some business cards, and I go. That's not networking. That is just like, spending time and having some drinks with few folks. But when networking means that when you are going to a networking event in a community, you already have an objective in mind. You want to accomplish something. The second is that in this kind of communities, it's all about give and receive. You really have to be there for them, and they're going to be there for you. So that is what community means. Community is not just that I am present, but I am present and I'm contributing. And that contribution needs to be intentional, needs to be with whole heart, and also needs to have an impact. And we are back to square one when we are talking what is like the connection between the success and impact. If you want to be successful in networking, you really need to look at what you give and the impact you are making into that.
This example or the subtitle of your story, and I think, there's been people who sort of have doubt about the purpose of their story or the power of their story. And it seems like one of the things I'm hearing here is that you have to have that, we can call it self-trust, we can call it understanding of the power of your story, or the awareness of the strengths in order to enter that community and have that sort of, I don't want to say transaction because I think there's something bigger happening there, but it's because I'm part of communities too. And I just wonder, when you think about that, what is it that provided that for you? Is there ever a time where you have doubts about, or is this kind of like you're just solid in your ability to trust your story has a purpose and it's connected to your purpose, maybe?
So Ryan, whomever is listening to us right now, I would like to emphasize what I'm calling the personal power proposition, which is equal with your unique story. You have your story, I have my story. They are unique. Our experience is what we learn, success, struggles, unique. We used our strengths to get there. So you add to your unique story, you add your top strengths. What that tells about you? It tells you that you already have an amazing foundation of who you are. And to that, you just add the actions which you are doing every day and the questions which you might ask yourself when doing those actions or settling for some objectives, right? Is how my story is going to be enhanced with these actions I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to use my strengths in achieving these objectives. And to me, there is no doubt in my mind that everyone who thinks that they are the unique value proposition, they have this personal power proposition because they have these unique things. Just looking into the goals, the actions which everyone is doing every day, connecting with your story and really using your strengths every day, because people, they are not aware that they have those strengths. When you are aware about your top 10, and I mentioned my top 5. So you are just empowered. You say, oh my God, I'm a learner. Oh my God, I really I can really juggle with things every day. So imagine what kind of empowerment is going to come out of that. So to me, when you think about your uniqueness, and I think yesterday I was just jotting down some words, and I said that this uniqueness of each and every individual actually is an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an unfair advantage, this uniqueness. I think when people will realize that, and they will start, really very simple, jotting down your own story. Go and do your top 5, top 10, top 34 strengths. You're going to see the empowerment which that creates.
Yeah.
Did I
Absolutely.
answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, you did, you did, and then some. So I think that's good because that's something I've come across with people, and I think that is sometimes that's the only barrier that's really keeping them as, I sort of I don't have this full trust. There's this doubt, which oftentimes is worse than fear, and so that holds them back, and so they kind of live in this place where, like you said, they feel like there's so much more they can do or give, and they're not because they have this sort of lingering doubt. And I think it's very clear in speaking with you that you're very aware, you know what your strengths are. That means also that you kind of know what your strengths aren't, but you're focusing on the strengths. And as you're developing those, it's probably having an impact on the things that it's probably helping elevate some of those things that maybe weren't your strengths to almost the strength level, perhaps. I'm just throwing theories out there now.
So I would like to emphasize what you just said, because people might think, but what about weaknesses? We all have weaknesses, but imagine this. What is your dominant writing hand, Ryan?
Right.
Right. Same here. We don't do it right now, but I encourage everyone to take 30 seconds and to write down with their non-dominant hand the sentence, I know my strengths, and to have another 30 seconds to write the same, I know my strengths, with their dominant hand. I'll tell you what's going to happen. They might write maybe 1.5 with their non-dominant hand, and they might write 6 times with their dominant hand in 30 seconds. What that tells you? That tells you that your non-dominant hand is not your weakness. It's just about that it's not trained and requires an effort. You might start practicing writing that sentence with your non-dominant hand, and you might reach like from 1.5 to 3. But you'll never get to the level of writing as perfect as you are writing with your dominant hand. So your weaknesses will never become your strengths. This is what I'm saying. And it becomes frustrating to just go and, to try to reach 6 sentences in 30 seconds with your non-dominant hand. It's going to be painful, frustrating. Why not tapping into your strengths and overcome your weaknesses?
Wow, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna borrow that from you, but I'll always give you credit, Laura. Okay, that's great.
And I have to give credit to all my coaching hours with Gallup, because this is an example which I learned, but I love using it because it's so obvious and it's so evident, and it's much more fulfilling to focus on your strength and have struggles tackled from the position of strength-led actions, instead of thinking that those struggles, they are like a sort of weaknesses.
Yeah, there's sort of a transformation or a clarity that happens for me when you say it that way. I like that a lot. I want to do a sort of brief transition. We talked about what sort of led you to writing the book, but I wonder, what can people expect to find in your book, Stories with Purpose?
Thank you for this. Thank you for this question. I'm not gonna give an elevator pitch. I'll give a sort of story to this. The book as is right now, it shaped very recently. The manuscript at the beginning was just some poems, and I was thinking to drive that reflection into journaling. But while I was reframing the manuscript, I realized that we human beings, we tell stories over 70% of our time. I did a bit of research, and I realized that the first story known by humankind is a poem. Is the poem of Gilgamesh, nowadays Iran, I think, written on cuneiform on 12 clay plates. And that poem, actually, it's a superhero story because it describes King Gilgamesh slaying dragons, having these kind of superpowers. So these two ideas of that we tell stories 70% of our time, and understanding how powerful the poetry and any form of art is for someone to uncover emotions, I started the book explaining the importance of storytelling and the importance of some of the stories we come across in our day-to-day life. And in our day-to-day life, we hear inspirational stories, educational stories, entertaining stories. But two stories are the most important for an individual. One is your own story, and the other one is the story you tell to yourself here, because those are other kind of stories. And we know that by nature or by DNA, we do have a lot of negative storytelling over here. So when I realized that, I said, how can I encourage any reader to crave for discover or uncover their own story? Because it's such a fundamental thing for each and every individual, and it's such a unique thing. And I said,
I'm here.
and yes, yeah.
Right.
And I realized that I could do that through examples. And I started to unpack the metaphor into the real story behind each and every poem. Where I was, what was, the scene, what was the tension, what challenges I overcome, what emotions I had, and everything, for people to really understand what telling a story is. Giving these examples, and there are 28 examples, I said, to encourage everyone, people might read, might resonate. And I have like couple of poems which they already I already start giving the feedback that people they resonate with. So when someone is resonating with a poem or with a story, there is an emotional connection. There are thoughts crossing our mind. And I help unpack that through some questions, which helps and enables reflection. And through that reflection, at the end of the book, the reader will be able to really synthesize a very powerful own story, which is unique, and they can also share it with anyone in any kind of setups, like networking setups, social media, and so on. So to me, when I was thinking about the impact which this book is going to create, is going to create the impact of people realizing that they have a story and that story is unique, and I'm going to help them write it.
Wow. Well, that's an incredible. Again, I find myself surprised. I haven't looked into the book as much. I like to put myself in the listener's shoes, but now I'm going to make sure that I order it right away. But one of the things I want to share, I'm curious about for you when it comes to your writing. I mean, there's obviously a powerful mission behind this, but as far as your use and development of poetry, who are some poets perhaps that you like that have influenced you in your writing?
Well, Rumi is one of those.
Yes.
After that, uh, I was when I was writing poetry, being very young. Some very famous Romanian poets like Nikita Stănescu, like Adrian Paunescu. When I started to take in the English poetry, Rumi Kapoor, I think that's the name, Kapoor for sure. I loved after that Yeats, of course, and there are some local poets, because this is the beauty. I lived in 7 countries, 5 continents in my life. And yes, you have all the poets which are very easily to access on the shelf. But there are so many unknown local poets. You can call it folklore, if I believe, right? But that is the essence of a culture and a country. So to me, outside of the big names, which actually are like close to my heart, I also been influenced by the local traditional folklore, things which I learned about the place. And my poetry is definitely infused with my own experiences traveling through all these places.
Yeah. You know, y I don't think had this top of mind before I came to this conversation, and that is that I found so me growing up, poetry was, it was like an assignment that we had to do in school. It wasn't something I was really drawn to until I was in my early 20s, and there was Dylan Thomas. I read Dylan Thomas, and,
Okay.
what really struck me about that was the almost unpoeticness of it. It was he used words out of place. He used words incorrectly in a sentence so that they would mean something, I don't know, visceral. It was almost like looking back. I'm trying to find a way to explain this. It helped me express a feeling that I couldn't get direct access to. And I realized this is where I sort of realized the power in writing. And during COVID, among other projects, I found this journal with all these poems in it. And I kind of rewrote them and made a small book that I published and shared with family and friends and whatnot. But it was very I don't know. In some parts, I was delighted at what I found. In some parts, I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure what I was trying to do there." But it really, um, I don't know. There was something very resonant about it. And then Rumi, like you said, one of the things I do every morning is I read just a couple moments of a Rumi book. I just love this sort of place where it takes you.
Yeah. Yes.
So that is, there's so many. I have little post-its on my board right here that have like Rumi quotes. So there's something about poetry for me that really was about creating context more than kind of getting across like something specific. So I don't know. I just you brought that up. I felt called to share it.
Yes, and let me add something to what you said because it resonated with me. And I want to clarify. So Rupi Kaur, Milk and Honey, one of my favorites. But when it comes to poetry and any form of art, think about ballet, think about a painting, think about the music which you listen like casually and just listen, music for relaxation, like for focus time. I think any form of art is storytelling. That's one belief I have. But also, any form of art is tapping into individual creativity and emotions. Because when you read the Rumi in the morning, you have that feeling that you are transposed somewhere else and you have so many thoughts crossing your mind. It can be a very nice way of starting journaling, or it could be very inspiring and it could give you an idea starting with a feeling about your next podcast. I think poetry has this beautiful way of enabling us to get out all the emotions and to become much more creative and to have that kind of inspiration flowing through our mind. And it's the form of art which I resonate the most. And I also think that, people might say that poetry is dead. I heard that so many times, poetry is dead. When poetry is going to be dead, it means that creativity is going to be dead and that never going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I think that probably there's just, perhaps there was a time where if someone needed to access something creative, you can do a great many things. And certainly poetry provides a very sort of specific sort of attention and experience, I think.
Yeah, it's an outlet. It's an outlet where
Mhm.
actually you are free. You can achieve your best for a certain moment, just like reading a poem.
I want to ask, is there a poem from the book that you're willing to read an excerpt from?
Okay. I was not ready for this, but now I just had a reader who told me three poems which resonated with him. I'm just gonna read one. It's named Can Opener and goes like this. First time when someone is asking me, so I'm just gonna go. Come closer. Bring over more smiles. I turn off the gaming. I turn on the mind. Keep listening to your talking. Feel deeper the vibe. How what my heart's saying sings right in my mind. More feelings I listen, much simpler become. That heart is the opener and mind is the can.
Oh, that was excellent. Thank you for reading that. That's great. What is now I have so many questions because very rarely do we any of us get a chance, I think, to hear something and have the author read it. You know, where did that come from? It sort of sounds like a everyday experience made profound. I don't want to put words in your mouth. It's kind of
Well, I think it relates to the story behind and the book you're going to have the story behind the poem. But what I have learned that my brain I think is my most important possession.
yeah. Yeah.
And there are and during the day I engage in so many conversation up here, right? And what I discover that's not that for me that's not a monologue, but it's a dialogue. And it's a dialogue not just of the thoughts happening here, but also my emotions coming from my heart. And and I think the stories I realized when I was writing this, I was trying to express the fact that the stories we tell here in our brain are the most significant narratives. And we need to embed the emotions. So just being logical and being black and white, unless you tap into your heart and into your emotion, you're not gonna live at maximum. You'll just so that was the sort of story I wanted to bring together with the poem.
I love that. Thank you so much for doing that. I know I put you on the
I
spot a little
thank you.
bit there.
I thank you for asking me. First time when someone is asking me to read it out loud, I'm so grateful.
Oh, I'm
I'm a
so
bit
great. Thank you.
emotional right now, so yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for that.
No, it's just is it's beautifully resonant. I just yeah, I've just enjoyed this conversation, Laura, so much. I can't even begin to say. I wonder as we begin to get close to our time here, what did you what did you anticipate me asking, or what is something maybe you wish I would have asked that we didn't get to, or I don't know.
So Ryan, I'm so excited and I felt so comfortable with the space you created and your questions that I cannot think right now about anything in addition that you could ask me. And with your permission, I might ask you a question.
Please, please. Of course.
So you you as a podcast host, you interact with so many people, and you are listening with to so. What is your way of coping or intaking all this kind of wisdom? How you process all this? Because I believe that there is a lot of emotion. There are so many good thoughts and so much wisdom which you come across every day. How you process all this?
Laura, this is an idea I've been engaged with as of late because, and I'm not sure I have the right words to put to it yet, but it really, the conversations with this one sort of at the top of the list, like I'm sort of changed by them, so it's hard because it's like remembering what you were like when you were two. You don't really remember that, right? There's been so many iterations. And so there really is a lot that there's a lot of light bulbs that went off from my experience and you sharing your stories. So really listen as deeply as I can and try to gain the sort of lesson and not just hear the words so much as the experience, and really try to put myself in your shoes and I really one thing is really clear. It's really a vibrant realization right now of the uniqueness of individuals, of people. Um, it's funny because I set out to sort of describe a path to success, but in a way, I've talked to a lot of successful people like yourself, and there is it's just so unique. And I try to have like a common thread through it. And there's something I'm sort of seeing about a deep self trust and just at the same time, surrender as well. So I know that's kind of a deviation from your question, but I'm still working on it. I just right now, listen, integrate, and be grateful for the opportunity because it is really just a beautiful thing that all of a sudden seems to have just appeared in my life. That is being great.
It's likewise, you appeared in my life as well, and I'm super grateful. I would say the space and the way how we discussed, and for everyone listening or seeing, we just met 1 hour and a half
Yeah,
ago for the first
right.
time. So it's really on the spot. We were just rolling, camera rolling. We never had a prep conversation, and the way how we interacted, and it's obvious that there is a story here, which we are going to tell later to others, because it's a beautiful story we created here, and I'm super grateful that I had the chance to sit and talk to you.
It's one of the things that I think is really I'm taking away from this is that there is something, there is an intention here that maybe I didn't put words to highlight without sort of highlighting it, that there is a power in these stories. Ultimately, if you listen to any one of the episodes that we have here, people we're telling stories, right? And it is somebody's listening, putting themselves in their shoes. And I think I kind of see my role as just keeping the spaces open and kind of bringing in the story as much as possible wherever it sort of leads. So that's, you asked me about format before we started rolling, and I was like, that's a good question. No one's asked me that, but that's the format. If I could go back in time, Laura, it would be like, oh, we're just going to try to bring the story in and let it present itself in the way it feels right now. So it's been a great conversation. Where can people get the book, connect with you online? Of course, this will all be in the show notes, but I want you to be able to connect with people who felt something from this episode.
Thank you so much for the opportunity of saying this. My book is available. My book, Stories with Purpose, Your Story Has Purpose Too, is available on all digital platforms or marketplaces like Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Nobles. I think everyone just doing a Google, and you're going to have the link to Amazon. They'll be able to find it. Very active on LinkedIn, my main platform. Also, you're going to have the website where they can see some of the coaching courses I'm doing. I'm still reshaping a bit the coaching. 1 year in entrepreneurship, it gives you that roller coaster and you reiterate. But now I feel very confident that I landed on this personal power potential equation, which I feel very confident. So people will be able to learn more visiting my website.
Well, maybe I should back up for a second here, because I realized that one of the things that I think I got to one question on my list here, Laura. So that's usually the sign of a good conversation, honestly. That's one of the things that you do, is you help people who are authors and writers sort of find their voice and kind of get their writings out there. Is that right?
I help leaders
Okay.
and I help working individuals, because whomever has a team and they are really on their path to build on their career. What I'm doing nowadays, I'm coaching a story-driven, strength-driven leadership, where I do really have this kind of 6 weeks where I work individually, one-on-one, with anyone who wants to become much better leader. But I'm trying to say it like, in a way that is impactful as well. So whomever wants to have 3 times more impact with their team in engagement, productivity, and they are curious to understand how their own story and their strengths can help achieve that, this is where my coaching is. And it's just a 6 weeks, intense, very milestone driven, but also impactful.
Yeah.
So this is what my coaching does. And definitely any kind of writer who wants to become a published author, I can share free of charge any kind of like lessons or tips. And I'm still in the learning process, because I'm on my path to my second book this year.
Wow. So yeah, that was going to be sort of my final question, is what's next for you? So you're working on another book right now. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Okay, yes, I would say it like this. We talked about self-trust, right? In our conversation, we talked about self-trust, we talked about stories. And my second book, it's about love. And it's love defined as what love is for you. If I'm asking what love is for you, I can say what love is for me. Love for me, it's like, it's about learning, because it's my strength. Love for me, it's about open minds, which is curiosity. Love, it's about, versatility, the courage to experience. It's about empowerment. It's about that kind of way of like, they make making and taking yourself, in a sort of empowered way through life. So love for me has a definition. So this book is going to help people to really define what love is for them.
Well, that is an impactful coming attraction, if you will.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, Laura, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to kind of sink my teeth into Stories with Purpose. And again, if you're interested in that book, you can find it in the show notes or How to Work with Laura. But I thank you so much for your wisdom, your openness, and your time today.
Ryan, it's been a pleasure. You have this kind of strength of bringing the most beautiful stories out of your guests. I thank you so much for that. And I hope that your listeners and your viewers will really enjoy listening to our stories and take the most out of the stories we shared. And as I'm always saying, every story shapes someone else's success. So
Thank you so much, Laura. Well, that was wonderful. Thank
that
you.
was
Thank you so much.
amazing. That was amazing.